Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Smokin Tex electric smokers and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, guys, thanks very much for that nice introduction. And Mr. Weissoon is right here with me. Larry, good day to you, sir.
Well, top of the afternoon, morning, or whatever it is when people start listening to us. But, you know, we're so very fortunate. We've brought to everybody out there about DSC, conservation education, and hunter advocacy. Want to invite everybody to the Atlanta show this year in January. We had to move from Dallas because they're tearing down K. Bailey Hutchinson Center. So the commission is moving to Dallas, but I'm from Dallas to Atlanta, Georgia, which would be kind of a new venue. And then, of course, Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable, Mossberg, makers of unbelievable great rifles and shotguns and Taurus handguns and Rossi lever action rifles. And gosh, so many other great folks that are out there like Stealth Vision that, you know, I've both been using here quite a bit. And then, of course, VINEYARDMAX. And Luke, we need to tell folks a little bit about this fishing trip that you set up for us and kind of go from there, because there's some interesting things that happen on that trip.
That'll be fun too, Larry. You and I are both not bad storytellers. We cranked out so many gazillion words, you know, telling about things we've done. But folks, Larry and myself and Jeff Rice, our great friend that puts our the show A Sportsman's Life together. That's Jeff there. So I set it up and it was an absolute blast. We went down the plan, and that's exactly what we did. We went down to Lake Tawakoni so on an afternoon. We went. This only happened like 3 days ago, folks. So it's very current, fresh in our minds. We went down to Wind Point Park. Ryan Fergus is the operator there. He's the one that's out there making things happen at that beautiful park. It's about a 180-acre park, and it's over on the north, I guess the east side of Lake Tawakoni. And Tawakoni is about an hour east of Dallas, a little less than that if the traffic's good. So I had it set up with Ryan. He had a nice cabin for us to spend the night in. And we got there mid-afternoon with our cameras, and I had some wild pork fajitas already made, wrapped up in foil. And so that was supper, and some Count baked beans. So Larry, we got there and we met Jeff, and then we got on the golf cart, one of those big golf carts with Ryan Fergus, the operator there, and kind of tell our folks what happened next, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm kind of giggling because that place has got a lot of deer scattered all around it, and it sits right next to, you know, some park country, and then there's actually a Type 2 wildlife management area, I think, pretty close right there as well, too. But tremendous deer population. And, of course, both Luke and I have been doing quite a bit as of late with VINEYARDMAX. We played around with it and found that it worked out in West Texas like we couldn't believe, and a bunch of other places. And so we just decided, well, let's see if these deer, they've never had the opportunity to even smell this stuff or anything like it. Let's see what happens if we put some out. So to start with, there by the cabin, we put some out, and it did not take very long. Just a little bit of a breeze, and I guess there's just enough breeze to carry the scent of that. And guess what? We had several deer show up, one real nice 8-point buck, put it out on the ground and kind of just left the bag sitting there, see if it would scare them away or what would happen. And lo and behold, we had a doe that came up. She ate deer around, and then she was kind of a dominant doe because she kind of really chased everything off, trying to keep it away from what she was eating. And then she just kind of stuck her nose down into the bag, took a big bite.
Yep.
And I actually turned the bag over, and then she would paw at the bag a little bit just to try to get more stuff out. And I thought, man, that's really pretty cool. She kind of kept that buck away from them there for a while. And finally, of course, those bucks are in the latter stages of velvet. And so they're subordinate to those dominant does like that one that she is or was. And finally, he got over there and he got a chance to eat some of it as well, too. But then we just started driving around and started looking at different things. And to make a long story short, we got over next to the water, to the lake, and there were some deer to begin with out there eating vegetation, some of the water vegetation up to their belly, and kind of marveled at that. Got some footage and some good photographs, particularly you did photographs. And then we decided, well, let's see what happens if we put some VINEYARDMAX out here. So Jeff carried what was left in the bag and kind of poured the spot on the ground over there, and we kind of backed off, just kind of watched to see what happened. By then, the wind had come up just a little bit more and kind of blowing from our right to our left. And we're standing there kind of looking at those deer out in the water, which were way beyond there. And all of a sudden, here comes a doe at almost at a fast walk, and then at a trot. And she ran right exactly to where that VINEYARDMAX was put out and started eating all that.
Exactly, yeah.
And then we had more deer coming in at a run. It was amazing.
It was, to me, I was honestly in awe. And all of this is on video, and it's going to be probably by now, I bet you, I'm quite sure, A Sportsman's Life on Carbon TV or A Sportsman's Life on YouTube. You can search it out either place. You can see this, and that doe, I just kind of noticed off to we were sitting probably over 100 yards from where that bait pile was. And I saw a little movement off to the left, and here this doe stopped over there. I said, whoa, wait a minute. That doe is looking right toward where I know that bait's at. And she had her, had her head up in the air there when I first spotted her, and I almost see the nostrils twitching, and she just walked real fast, and then she stopped out there in front of us, 75 yards. We were back out kind of on the edge of a tree line. And then she started trotting, I mean, a beeline to that VINEYARDMAX. People that don't think the scent. Now, we've used this stuff now, Larry, for about a year, but the deal is the scent is what gets them coming. We did it out in your deer lease out in Sterling City. Yeah, would they come to corn? You better believe they would. But would they smell corn at 100 and something yards away? And that breeze brought that scent, that grape scent to them. So that was exciting, and we got it all on film. So then it's getting dark. That was the super moon, the full moon.
Oh, it was absolutely gorgeous coming across the lake.
It was beautiful. We had that, and then Jeff got his drone out and the Wind Point Park. By the way, to really get a good view of that park, I think it's windpointparktx.com. It's a great place to stay for folks that want to come out and maybe just go out and photograph deer, but awesome fishing there and fishing pier and everything else. So we had I was really proud of those fajitas. I love to cook for people that like to eat them. Made out of a wild hog that I personally removed the back straps and marinated and all that. We had some of that and then some camp beans that night, like a baked beans in a way, except cooked on top of the stove. And then the next morning we met Mr. David Hanson, and you tell him about part 2, Larry.
Oh, my gracious. I'll tell you what, of course, David Hanson knows catfish is good or better than anybody I've ever been around, and he knows that lake extremely well, too. And he had invited us to come over and hunt. It was kind of like a hunt when you got right down to it, because we worked our way back into some pretty shallow country way back there, talking about shallow water. And he set the boat up, and we baited the hooks with some cut bait, if you will, and just kind of sat back. I think we had 10 lines out, and there were several times where we had like 2 lines working at the same time. Man, the blue cat, we did not get into any of the big ones, but we know there's some big ones there. But really, I was more thrilled about catching the size that we did, and they ran from about 2 to about 8 or 9 pounds.
Yeah, the big one was 12, is what David said.
Oh, okay. Oh, the biggest. Oh, well, yeah, and who caught it, by the way? I think somebody by the name of Luke Clayton caught that.
We caught him, and that was the top end on the eater size. If he'd been much bigger than that, we probably would have released him. But no, absolutely. that was 12 or 15 pound fish, and then I broke off a. You remember, I saw the tail on one, broke that 30-pound test line. So,
and that was one of the first. That was one of the first bites we had.
It was
set up, and you're right. That was a big fish. There was no question about that one.
Yes, sir. And like David said, he says, most people target those trophy blues in the winter, fall and winter. That's when the bite is for the big ones is at its best. And this was kind of a new pattern to catch blues in the summer. You could get out there with punch bait and limit out on pound and a half channel cat all day long. But he asked me, he said, Luke, I think I'm on a good blue catfish bite. He said most of these trips are producing 1 or 2 fish, 20 pounds to 40.
Right.
And I said we don't have to have that, but we wound up with 5 or 6 gallon bags full of snow white blue catfish fillets. It was an awesome trip. Got back to the bank there, and we got out there at actually before first light. Of course, it was hot. It was like, I think the daytime temperature like 101 that day.
It was hot.
It was hot, but we had it done by before it got hot. So that was our trip. May that lifestyle go on forever, Larry. I sure enjoyed it,
Well, it really was. Like you say, people are going to be able to see what we did both on the deer with the VINEYARDMAX and also with the fishing that we did. And if people want to learn more about VINEYARDMAX, they can go to the website, and it's VINEYARDMAX.net, VINEYARDMAX.net. And you can get the VINEYARDMAX attractant there. They produce some unbelievable great feeders. They also sell the knives that I designed here not too very long ago. And the sale of those knives, every knife that's bought through that website, I will donate $10 to DSC, our DSC Foundation as well, too. So not only can you end up with an interesting knife that keeps an edge and is out of this world good, designed after about 70 years of hunting whitetail and a bunch of other critters around the world, but you can also help pay for some of the great research and grants and things that the DSC Foundation does as well, too.
That's right. That is a working knife. Beautiful knives. I've got one. I had to have one. And it's a type knife. It's not a great long Bowie knife that you don't want to see at a hunting camp. But no, I don't know. The blade's 3.5, something like that.
It's about 3 inches.
3 inches. So you can, that handle fits your hand good, and that index, that pointer finger, stick it on top of that blade. You can do some good work with that thing. Larry, I wish we had about 8 or 10 more hours because we got so much fun stuff to talk about. Matt Burgess, our friend with Stealth Vision, is up in Canada, Alaska right now, brown bear hunting. Say hello to him. I think he's listening in somehow. I don't know how he's getting it, but he told me good luck to him. Larry, let's you and I reconvene right here next week with everybody. What do you say?
You're right. We'll see everybody here around our campfire next week.
Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years. Wind Point Park, if you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer-like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, the tide has turned here in Texas. The brutal summer heat I think we've got it beat. People are thinking about food plots. Let's go and visit with a good friend of mine, Mr. Samuel Old. Now, Samuel I think he's a pretty good naturalist. He's has a farm in Virginia. He plants a lot of, food plots for spring and fall. Let's talk about planting food plots. The things that you can learn from Samuel, you can apply Texas, anywhere that there's food plots down in the South or wherever. Samuel, I'm sorry to have such a lengthy intro, but there's a lot to talk about when we're talking about food plots, Hey,
I love it, buddy. You're the pro.
Oh, no. I just happen to know a lot of pros. But, no, in Texas, I've got a lot of friends and people that I've hunted and fished with, A lot of
Yes.
Most of them are hunters, and many of them have land with food plots. Now, here in Texas, there's something about you let it start a predicted rain in September or late September. Well, they're going to be out there getting ready. They're probably going to get the fields ready, the plots ready beforehand, but they're going to be serious about planting. So
Yes, sir.
I know that the weather is a little bit more temperate there in Virginia where you live, but so soil prep, I guess that's step one that you'd want to think about, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And your soil test is very important. Now, the one thing that I can do up here that some of the people can do up here, once again, I've never been to Texas. I don't know what kind of ground it is, but in most parts of the country, that is where you start. You get your soil test, and most everywhere in the country, there's your feed and seed co-ops.
Mm-hmm.
I know the one up here. Rockingham, you can get your soil test, and that soil test is very easy to do. You can just get you a shovel and dig down no more than 6 inches,
Mm-hmm.
of the ground, and go to several different areas of your little food plot, whether it's an acre, whether it's 10 acres, whether it's however big it is. Put it in a bucket, mix up the soil, and you've got they've got little bags or little boxes that you can get from them. Well, actually, you could take your soil to them, and they'll put it in those little containers and send it off, or some of them can even test it there. They've got agronomists there also,
Mm-hmm. Yes,
most of them, and they can test your soil and tell you what you need. Of course, you got to know what you're wanting to plant. But once again, one of the first things that I do as I look around and I see what all the farmers have got, including myself, that deer are liking but I try in my mind to think about what will grow well that's not available for the deer immediately that they will really absolutely love. You know, depends on what kind of a food plot, whether you're having a food plot. There's different kinds of food plots. You know, there's a there's a hunting food plot, and then there's just a more or less like me, an observation food plot. Like I said, we don't hunt out of mine, but you know, we hunt perimeters. It's like people are saying, well, why don't you hunt in it? Well, that's my observation. That's where I go to find out exactly what I have for the year, what I want to take. You know, get my counts, and at the same time, you've seen my video, and you know, that's where I get a lot of my video at. That's where I can do a lot of observation. But as far as the soil tests go, yeah, just take them to the co-op, and it might take them a couple of days to get your analysis back, but or your readings back, and then they'll tell you what you need. You know.
Yep. They'll tell you how much nitrogen, phosphorus, whatever.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
To amend to the soil. So on the testing, that's interesting, and I know it's probably going to help some people. Don't just go dig one. Say you've got a 1 acre food plot, and don't just go dig one area 4 or 5 inches deep, but get a sample from around the whole area, right? Just little.
Yes, sir. You take your little bucket, you know, a little bucket and a little spade, or of course, I tell you, a lot of people have got a little thing called a bulb planter that they can put on the end of their cordless drill. Yep. And you can just take that little thing and drill down in several holes and pull the dirt up out of it and put it, you know, shake it off in a bucket and mix it up real good. Yeah, you want to get several parts of the food plot, you know, as far as the testing goes. You don't want to just get one.
Yes. Okay. Well, let's say we know what to do. We know we need to add some nitrogen or potash or whatever here and there across the whole thing. Now, soil prep. You're going to get in there. Well, if it's a new food plot, obviously, I guess you got to get the standing grass or weeds off of it first, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir. And, you know, a lot of people, they'll spray. You know, there again, you talk to your agronomist at the feed and seed and tell him what you've got, what kind of weeds you got, and he'll tell you what you can spray, and they've usually got the spray right there. Whether it's in a 3-point hitch sprayer on the back of a tractor or a backpack sprayer, whatever you're going to use. And, you know, you can do that. Usually it's about 14 days before you plant. You don't want to spray and then think, well, I'm going to go tomorrow and plant. You know, you can't do that.
Right.
But you usually got to wait about 14 to 20 days before you plant after you spray. And as far as fertilization goes, of course, you'll already have your test back. You'll know what you're going to need. Lime-wise, a lot of people say, well, can I put lime down now? Fall is the time to put lime down. And lime is not going to hurt your seed now, but it's going to take it some time to activate. Actually, it'll be springtime before you see any benefit from the lime. But it's in most parts, you know, your ground is going to be, I guess, already, you know, pre-made to where it will start growing now.
Yep,
you know?
It'll be ready to go.
Right.
Yep. And then you're going to go in and disc it up or hair. What after you get it ready? What's next? You know.
Yes, sir. What I do, I've got a little what I call a jitterbug plow. I'll go through and scratch it up. And there again, I've got the video on my YouTube.
We're going to give that Samuel. We're going to give that YouTube too. I want to make sure people can go there and watch all this.
Yes, sir.
YouTube. I'll tell you right now, friends. Samuel Old OLD Outdoors on YouTube. You can learn a lot, but we'll give that again. So you got it broke up or scratched up anyway, right? At that point,
yeah. You get it broke up, and you either disc it or till it up, you know, and then depending on what you're gonna plant, most of the time, you know, a lot of this stuff, the mixes, like if you're gonna put radishes, turnips, any kind of a brassica, of course, a real small seed.
Mm-hmm.
That if you spread those either with a hand spreader or whatever, most of that kind of stuff does not need to be covered up. It's fine, and especially if you're going to have rains, it'll cover it up. Just enough to get it going.
Get it germinated, right? Yeah, little old radish seed. Not radish so much, but many of those seeds are so tiny, aren't they? A drop of rain will cover it up, and get it ready. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And if you're going to put, say, winter peas or whatever in, you might want to go through and there again, if you got a little jitterbug plow or even a rake, depending on how big your food plot is, just rake it lightly. That kind of stuff doesn't need to be I don't care what kind it is. It doesn't need to be covered up that deep.
Yeah, right.
You take a little plant like that, sort of, if you get it too deep, it's sort of hard for it to push through, the top. But
I'm an old vegetable gardener, so some of those little tiny seeds, for instance, say you're broadcasting, I plant a lot of mustard green, turnip greens, just kind of sow them out there, and I actually take a garden rake and just kind of really, and then water it down if it's not raining. Then they'll go. Okay, I wonder about types of plants for a food plot. Now, I know you're in Virginia, folks, but I know for a fact that many of these plants do just as well in Texas as wherever.
Sure.
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, what I would recommend, of course, if there's people who's got a brand new food plot that they're wanting to start in the fall, that'll be okay. But but what I like to do, or what I have done on new ones, I start them in the spring, and the reason is this. I'll put something like sorghum, some kind of a stalky hive, and then that way I can come back in the summer after that's all headed out and matured, and I can brush hog it off. Okay. Mm-hmm. And you brush hog it off, and about 2 days after you do that, then you go in and you make sure. Well, first thing is this: you make sure you brush hog it real fine, because if you don't, you're going to have trouble trying to disc it in or till it in. The stubble will wrap up on your tines, but then you till that in for organic matter. Everything that you're doing from the time you break the ground, you got to keep in mind that you're trying to enrich the ground at the same time, organically and naturally, more than synthetically. Using synthetic fertilizers. I like to use synthetic fertilizers. A lot of people say, no, I don't want to use that. Well, that's your supplement now, after you've moved along a little bit and got your organics going into it, organic matter. But then, just like I say, you come back in the fall and put those turnips and stuff. Everything that you do from the beginning is going to enrich that soil. Now, another recommendation that I would say is the daikon radishes. Mm-hmm. Those things, as you well know, they'll grow up to a foot and a half deep, and they're almost like a carrot. And what they'll do, of course, deer love the tops of those things. And I've even had deer back here in mine pulling them up. But they'll what they don't eat, they will rot, sort of decay in the ground.
Yeah.
And that is a natural aerator for the soil.
I guess it maybe adds some nutrients back, right?
It adds the nutrients back. There again, nitrogen and phosphorus, whatever. But that kind of thing, like we say, will loosen the soil up, deeper than any other plant will, for the most part. And you get that soil starting to loosen up on down deeper in the ground. As you go on, in the future, it's going to get better and better and better.
You bet. Well, Samuel, we need about 5 hours. I could quiz you and we're going to. I'm going to get you back, and we're going to talk some more about food plots and everything else that you folks. I have a lot of friends and a lot of contacts as an old outdoor writer and whatnot, but Samuel, to my knowledge, studies deer year-round probably as much, at least, probably more than 90% of the people I know. So you've got a YouTube channel, and I want you to, it's easy to remember, Samuel Old, O-L-D, Outdoors, on YouTube. You can just search it out. We'll have time for this. Triticale. Of course, I'm from Texas, old school. Oat patches, that was what it was all about for years. So Triticale is a good one. I know that.
Yes, sir.
Our friend Larry Weissoon and I actually we're going to be doing a deer survey on a place with. Want to help Larry out tonight, actually, for a deer survey. So Triticale, and then your basic plants, the radishes and things like that.
Sure.
Well, Samuel, will you get back with me again in the near future and talk some more management for deer?
I certainly will, and let me mention this real quick. I didn't mention the Triticale, but Larry turned me on to that Triticale, and let me tell you what's the truth. You want to draw deer into a food plot, that'll bring them in from miles around.
Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at SmokinTex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on when that scope is level because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well, too, and a whole lot of other products, and folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. Folks, how about that little intro from Ernest Tubb there? This segment here is brought to us by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything airgun related. Well, friends, let's talk about fishing in the Brazos River, the beautiful upper Brazos there, west of Fort Worth. Mr. Shane Davies with River Run Guide Service is with us. Shane, thank you, buddy, for spending some time and talking fishing with us.
Absolutely great to be here this morning, Luke, talking with you. Beautiful morning. Nice to have a little bit cooler weather. Just out on the porch, enjoying that second cup of coffee. Yeah. Looking forward to talking Brazos River with you.
You betcha. Folks, Shane makes his living guiding on rivers. He's a self-proclaimed river rat. I'm kind of a wannabe river rat. I love them too, but Shane is all about rivers, the Pecos and the Devil's River. But right now, this fall, he's doing a lot of fishing, and he has been this summer on the Brazos, and this is the stretch below Possum Kingdom, right?
Yes, sir, absolutely. That stretch between PK and Whitney, Lake Possum Kingdom and Whitney, and also some between Whitney and Waco, but mostly, especially a lot of our striper fishing is occurring. Our summer bite is occurring on that stretch below Possum Kingdom.
Well, let's start off and tell folks about the trip. It can be a day trip or a multi-day trip. Is that right for stripers and largemouth?
Absolutely. And the stripers, if somebody just wanted to come out and was just targeting stripers for a day, we can do it on multi-day. That's not an issue. I do, to make sure that we get success under a variety, whatever the conditions, especially in the summer. These fish get really honed in on that young of the year. They really like a lot of the fish are honed in on that hand-sized gizzard shad. Mm-hmm. And I have the ability, most people don't associate being able to keep live bait alive, especially shad, paddle crap. I have special tanks and design and square back canoe and so forth. And I use trolling motor. It's amazing how stealthy we can sneak around, and my clients are in kayaks and target these fish. And I mean, some of these runs, I got to tell you, Luke, some of these runs you could throw underhanded across to the other side. Yeah. And that's how skinny these fish are. And, it reminds me of a lot of my hunting salmon, trout, and steelhead up in the Northwest as I was growing up as a youngster. And so I'm very familiar with how to approach those runs and get the most out of them. And there's just no doubt, free line and a hand-sized shad this time of the year. I mean, those fish are just keyed in on it. And that's something that a variety of size of fish, we don't get a lot of giants this time of year, but the amount of fish in that 32-inch range and keeper, 18 to 32 inches, we've been cleaning some fish at the end of the day. I'll tell you that.
That's a 32-inch striper. That's in my opinion, that's a very nice striper. So
it is.
Are you targeting deeper holes, Shane? In the river, like a lot of times around the bend of a river, there'll be a washout or a deep hole. Is that where you're finding the stripers, or?
They'll actually be in areas that'll surprise you. When they come after all the water we've had moved through the basin, Brazos Basin, when that water comes down suddenly, it's like they have the gates open and they can suddenly just close them just like that. And these fish, it would surprise you where they wind up. And what would further surprise you is how little water they need to do all right in and be okay. Now, these aren't fat fish; they're skinny. You can tell they've got the summer in a lot of these places where they haven't been able to get out one end or the other because of the shoals. So they're basically landlocked. Not, you know what I mean? They've got a gravel bar at one end and a gravel bar on the other. Yeah. They've wiped out their food source by this time of the year, pretty much wiped out their food source. And so we go up in there, and I've got the tank and 6, 7, 8 dozen gizzard shad, and we can go up there, and I mean, it doesn't matter, middle of the day, whatever. These fish they're hungry and they're feeding. Oh, boy. And it's crazy. I mean, you can do the traditional stuff and target them in the deeper holes and bends. Those fish are always there, but it would surprise you.
That's amazing. Do you free line them without a weight, or?
Yes, yes. That's the most exciting way to do it. And not even that heavy a gear. Shoot, a 7.5 medium heavy. And you don't need a big reel, 10-pound spinning gear, monofilament, and a little bit of moving water. And they're going to have their hands full. So
some of that water is going to be just fairly shallow that you're catching them in, right?
I got to tell you, one of the bites that I've been on recently that I had a couple of customers being able to take advantage of is these fish are coming in 4 foot or less of water. Yeah. And they're literally sometimes falling up and grabbing them at our feet.
Man alive, I bet it's a little aerial action maybe at times. You probably see them breaking the surface too, that shallow of water.
Absolutely. Yeah, when they, how they get up there and start competitive feeding and getting that shad up
they
on
want
top
that. They want
it out of the water.
They want that. They want the foods. Yeah, I get it. So striper fishing, you can get with Shane and spend overnight, camp out along the way, and of course it's into September, early September. So, in my opinion, the best time of the year is ahead the next few months. So probably not too early to get on the books with you though, or call you and plan a trip, right?
Absolutely. I've got dates available. I'll be headed down south to do trips starting at about the end of September on the Devils and Pecos. At the end of September and wrap up down there about mid-November. But I'll have a week or so in between and.
Yeah. Yep.
And hey, in the Brazos fish is good year round. Our fish don't migrate; they don't leave.
They're there.
So it's a great fishery, absolutely. In fall, you and I both know despite what you say. I know you are a river rat, and I know that you know that October is a magical month on all of our Texas rivers.
It is.
So, we've got that coming up.
Yeah. So the striper fishing, they can get with you and enjoy some awesome striper action.
Now, that's happening right now.
Right now. Yep. Now, we have time to cover the bass, too. I fished that stretch. It's been several years, but I fished it quite a few times out of a little new canoe that I've still got, little kind of like a kayak.
Right on.
Yep. And caught a lot of – it shocked me. I was introduced to the bass fishing, just Texas rig worm is what I've used back in the day, but caught a lot of nice bass, and you telling me the bass fishing's still solid, really good there.
Yeah. It really is, and I really like that stretch between Whitney and Waco.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, the bass are just the flow is staying a real consistent level. The Corps of Engineer, they've got a nice live release flow coming from the lake right now that keeps that just enough room. If you're in a properly loaded kayak or canoe, you're going to be able to float right down it and enjoy it, and it fishes great. It's very consistent, and the water's been up for about almost all the first part of the year down there. It's been at anywhere from 8 to 21,000 cubic feet a second. So it comes down, the fish spawn. They spawn successfully up in the creeks while the water was up, and they're just on. The water quality's great, and it's not up. Our last few trips, I mean, I had a customer send me a picture this time. I put it on social media. I mean, just a tore up bass thumb. I'm talking, you're just playing around on weightless plastics. You're going to catch 50 fish.
Not too
per
hard.
person.
Yeah.
No, and I'm talking about largemouth, smallmouth, and spotted bass. Which if you get all three in a trip, we call that a Brazos slam.
That's it. Well, so for folks that are not in Texas, people are listening everywhere, of course, online. We're talking about west of Fort Worth, not far, really. I mean, from Fort Worth, you can be there in not long, right? 45 minutes? I don't know. An hour?
That's right. Yeah, it really isn't. And, the interesting thing is on the Whitney stretch, you've got, that makes it convenient for customers I get customers from San Antonio, Austin, Georgetown area, Greene. People down in the hill country, because the hill country rivers evidently haven't got quite the water flow that we have, and I know their use requirements down there. Those rivers, even when they're up, they go down real quick.
Yeah, they fluctuate a lot.
A lot of people have been migrating further north for the better fishing and better opportunities up here. So,
yep. Well, let's do this. Let's do this, Shane. I want to make sure that everybody can contact River Run Guide Service, but how do they learn more about you, or just maybe give you a call? What's the best way?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can always, if I'm on the water, obviously I'm not going to be answering phone calls, and you can just leave a message or you can text me. My number is 214-418-9786.
Okay. And
that's,
let's have it again. I know somebody missed that number.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right on. It's 214-418-9786.
Well, Shane, thanks. I wish we had about 5 hours, because I enjoy visiting with you so much. And folks, remember, anybody that's a guest on this show, catfishradio.org is our radio website. And you go there, you can email Luke through that. I promise you I'll hook them up. Shane, thanks a lot, and keep catching them. I know you're going to do that.
Absolutely.
Folks, this is Luke. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock. I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders, located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, friends, this is Luke. We're going to wrap our show up. We've got a little time left, and I want to thank our guest, Mr. Samuel Old. Samuel lives up in Virginia, has a farm up there, and I honestly don't know anyone that studies wildlife on a day-to-day basis more than Samuel. He has food plots and has a YouTube channel that's Samuel Old Outdoors. I think you might enjoy. I know you'll enjoy it if you have to go to YouTube and check out that channel, Samuel Old Outdoors. And Mr. Shane Davies, thanks to Shane for being with us, sharing his knowledge on river fishing. He's the real deal, folks, on the Pecos River and the Devil's River. And this fall, he also fishes a lot there on the Brazos, which is west of Fort Worth, an hour or so, something like that, floating the river, and does overnight camping trips / fishings, lots of fun. Let's talk about hunting a little bit. You know, folks that know me are people that don't. You know, they ask me, well, Luke, what do you hunt with? They're expecting me to say, oh, I'm a bow hunter, or I hunt with centerfire, whatever. But the thing is, with me, I hunt with muzzleloaders, bows, crossbows, centerfire rifles, air rifles, you name it. I'm going to tell you, though, we're going to talk about air rifles just a little bit. You can spend, air rifles are not cheap. People think about the old pump-up Benjamin or whatever that they could buy years ago for $125. Well, big bore air rifles are not cheap, but I'm going to tell you about a rig that I hunt with. It's my go-to thing, and we're also going to talk about an affordable thermal scope. And I think you might learn something. If you've been on the border of thinking about getting into big bore air guns, I'm going to tell you about one that I use. It looks like a rifle. It's got a wooden stock. It's not made like an AR. It's just like a conventional rifle, except it has the air chamber underneath the barrels there. You know, it's got those underneath the barrel, which holds the compressed air. So it's called the Seneca Dragon Claw 2. Now, the Dragon Claw has been around for a long, long time, but this is the improved version. Or I don't know if you could call it improved. Let's just say the more powerful version. And you can hunt deer with it. You can hunt hogs. I've killed a bunch of hogs, and I've actually last year was the first year I had it, that it came out that I had it for deer, but it's also very, very powerful. It develops, to give you an idea, the Seneca Dragon Claw, shooting a 336 grain bullet, which is what I shoot out of it, develops about 330 foot-pounds of energy, something like that. That's a lot of energy, so it'll cleanly take down any hog or deer. Now, so I don't consider it it's not a long range big bore air gun. I do most of my hunting, regardless if I'm using an air gun within 60, 70 yards. Oh, it would kill deer size game out to farther than that. I just don't do it with an air gun. I want to make sure that shot is where I want it to be, and that I cleanly harvest the game, and I can do that inside, say, 70 yards. To an old bow hunter, that's a lot. That's stretching it out there. But so cost, I don't care what we're doing for bass fishing or whatever, cost is a factor. Pyramyd Air has everything in the world for everything to do with air guns. They've got it all. So, you know, the cost of the Seneca, it's honestly, in my opinion, and I'm pretty well versed in the air guns. I'm hunting editor for an air gun magazine. It's economically priced, a little over $700 compared to $1,200 for some of them. Okay, it looks like a gun. It looks like a rifle, a beautiful wooden stock. And I like it because you can get multiple shots. Now, you're pressuring this thing up to 3,000 PSI. not 4,500 like seems to be the trend on air guns, which I'm not knocking any of that, but most of those really super powerful air guns will shoot a couple, maybe 3 times hard shots, strong shots. But the Dragon Claw is unique. I mean, I have no problem shooting that thing or, hunting or killing a deer with it or a hog, 4 shots, 5, maybe 6. I've never done it that much, shot that many, because after a hunt, I'll go back in and pressure it back up. Now, I'll just tell you about the one that I hunt with. It pressures to 3,000. It shoots harder at 2,800 PSI. Now, that's a lot of pressure if you think about it. Tires in your car is going to hold 35 PSI. Think about 2,800. That's a lot of pressure. So I pressure mine. That's just the sweet spot for the one that I hunt with. It shoots harder at 2,800, so I pressure it to 2,800. The thing with air guns, shoot them. When you get one, check it out at all kind of different bullets. Now, the bullet you want a heavy bullet to get the max foot-pounds of energy. So the 336 grain slug, let's call it. I don't guess I should call it a bullet. Some of them call them pellets, but it's hard to imagine a 336 grain pellet, isn't it? But it's a slug, 336 grain. That thing develops maximum power. 330 foot-pounds, something like that. So keep your shots. This is just me. Keep your shots inside 60, 70 yards with the Dragon Claw. Now, there are people that shoot other big bore air guns, kill deer at 150 yards, and I know they're capable of it, but that's not what I do. So you can get one of these from Pyramyd Air, give you an idea about what they cost, a little over $700, and you will like the looks of it, and you'll like the performance. The trigger pull on the Dragon Claw is harder than most, but you just get used to it. You just have to keep your crosshairs where you want them and just keep squeezing. But the trigger pull is a bit more than most people are accustomed to, but you can get used to that quickly. Okay, so you want to hunt hogs with it. Well, we all know hogs are pretty much nocturnal. You can get them in the daylight at times, but most hog hunting in Texas, where I live, is after dark. So you want a thermal. Okay, I'm going to give you an idea. That's something to think about. AGM Global Vision is the thermals that I hunt with. They are awesome. I've got some of the more powerful, the Adder and the Rattler with the high-end processors that you can hunt hogs, 200, 300 yards if you wanted to, I guess. I don't shoot. Again, at night, I keep my shots in close. I don't want to be shooting at anything at 250 yards away. I just don't do it. That's me. But I'm old school. You got to understand that. I want to make sure that I can harvest that animal, and I don't want to worry about what I might hit. So I keep my shots in close at night. The AGM Global Rattler, the TS-19, it has a 256 processor. You can buy these thermal scopes for, I don't know, if you shop around, I don't think I think you can buy them for $800, around $800. That's for a thermal scope. So check it out on YouTube or wherever. But if you look into it, watch some of the YouTube videos. I've got one on this Dragon Claw, this air rifle, and it's great fun, great sport hunting with it, because I'm keeping my shots in, well within 100 yards. But most of the videos talk about it's hard to identify the animal at 100 yards using this TS-19 Rattler. Well, I did not find it to be so. Easily identify even past 100, although I've killed 3 hogs with mine in the last month, and I set up around feeders, or I'll spot the hogs and get downwind. It's not hard to sneak up on hogs if on a dark night with a thermal scope, get downwind. You can easily get within 50, 60 yards if you are quiet and do your homework and don't make a lot of racket. So, if there's another sport that's a lot of fun. You're talking about a big bore air gun and then a thermal scope and the whole shooting match, 800 for the thermal and a little over 700 for the air gun. I promise you it'll get the job done. And it's just something different to do that you might enjoy. I tell you, for the scopes, Outdoor Legacy, I think the website is outdoorlegacygear.com. But Jason Robertson and Hans, I know you've probably watched those folks on YouTube that are a podcast, the Late Night Vision Show. But that's a good place to, they're after the sale, they're there. You can call them up and they'll give you any kind of information that you need. We are out of time, friends, for our show this week. I've enjoyed our guest. I really appreciate you being with us. Thanks so much to all the radio stations that run our show. There's a smorgasbord of outdoor shows, but they choose to listen to old Luke and his buddies every week on the stations. And, of course, we become a podcast, as they say, everywhere podcasts are found. Catfish Radio with Luke Clayton and friends. Folks, be safe in the outdoors. Thanks a lot for being with us today. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, two awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.